All right. Now you guys should be able to hear me. Yeah, see, B-Dubs thought it was her AirPods again. PBO's just like, oh, struggle streaming once again. Go figure. Thank you, Albright, for throwing that out there. Yes, so basically, long story short, I'm going to run through this one more time here. So breaking down barriers, fostering collaboration and community, working towards a more secure future together. If you guys do want to come up on stage to have a conversation or ask a question, just drop that in chat, and I'm more than happy to have people come up on stage. If you guys do want to go through and share your personal LinkedIn, Facebook, other social media, the best place to do that is inside of our Discord server. You can also drop other related resources in the live chat channel on our Discord server as well. Throughout, I'm going to go through a short presentation, and then just like Albright said, I'm going to also showcase setting up WireGuard in AWS. So definitely ask questions, share resources, and so forth, even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about. Worst case scenario, we could circle back around to that. Don't share anything that you don't want to be public. If you happen to do so, definitely reach out to me on Discord, LinkedIn, or you can also contact me at contact@studygrc.org. Oh, all right. Yeah, the music is great. Yeah, I have an entire video just for that. And I spent way too much time setting up a incident response standby video. All right, and then moving forward real quick. So then also B-Dubs has a website posting a cybersecurity GRC related blog every single Monday. This last Monday was actually about the STAR method for resumes and interviewing. Definitely worthwhile. Also, the CISSP study group that we had yesterday, and that's also on Saturdays. Those links are definitely in chat there. I see PBO's in chat as well. PBO went live last night as well. Tuesday nights, there's a late night party with PBO. He's also working on a course right now too. But I dropped his information in as well. All right, before I transition over, I'm just going to double check chat again. And welcome to the party, pal. B-Dubs, Jeffrey, Cam, Josh, Albright, PBO, Ages in chat. Bam, GRC Mafia. PBO says shout out to the STAR method. Totally worth it. 100%. And yes, I do love an excuse to play that. Like, that's only the second time I believe that I've been able to actually utilize that. And then one time I had disclosed it on stream just because of it. I also got this oh, yeah, it's all different. Some of you guys may be familiar with this. T-shirt. Bam. All right, I'm going to move over to my presentation here about VPNs. I feel like I think it's safe to say that there's a good majority of people who do not fully understand the pros and the cons of a VPN. I think that they are overhyped, and I feel like that's a pretty fair assessment. Definitely drop your guys' opinions in chat and whether or not you guys use it. I do use a VPN on a daily basis. Pretty much the only time I don't is actually when I stream. B-Dub said that they got their t-shirt as well, their pizza shirt. We are looking for sponsorship. Monster is not a sponsor, though. Team struggle streaming. Hey, I learned from the best, PBO. All right, so we're talking about VPNs. So I'm going to touch on VPNs from a very foundation level here. I have to move over to this here. So what exactly is a VPN? So a VPN, it's software that's installed on two separate devices. There's a server side and there's a client side. You install the client version of the software, and then somewhere else where you're connecting to has a server version of the software that you're using. In a moment on one of these slides, I'll also talk about two of the most popular ones. It's like sending a locked letter. So it creates an actual encrypted tunnel. So it gets encrypted on your device for the data that you're going to send. And there's a tunnel, like a direct connection that goes across to the server itself. And what it does is it prevents eavesdropping. Technically, it doesn't prevent eavesdropping because they could still obtain the encrypted data. But it should be secure in the fact that an eavesdropper would not be able to recover anything. And then also another thing is that it hides your location. Now that's going to be like one of the biggest privacy aspects is the location. However, some of the VPNs do have additional benefits with like DNS filtering and some of the other features as well. There's a really good image on, this one here. So on this image here, which I find it weird because the service I use is supposed to have like stock imaging and whatnot, and that one has like an overlay on it. But so you could see here, it doesn't show the devices, but I think this is a really good example of what a VPN does, because you have the devices before the cloud, and then it shows the layers here. So the user device, VPN protection, encrypted connection that goes to the server itself, and then it goes to the open internet, that's still encrypted tunnel, and then it connects to that VPN server. And then that VPN server will pull that other information for you through that server instead. Does AWS have their own VPN service? I was just going to go through and deploy WireGuard on Lightsail. And so that's the key thing, is that it just encrypts your traffic going through. It's highly recommended for multiple different scenarios that we'll talk about here in a moment. But that's the foundation there, is that it encrypts your traffic to that VPN service. Now, one of the other key things, though, is that that VPN service that you utilize would still be able to read whatever you're doing. They'd still know what websites you're going to, and they have a lot more capability. So that's a huge thing to take into account, is that that's where I think it gets overhyped, is the fact that what service you use really matters as well. And then also website or service, see VPN location, not yours. And that's one of the reasons why you're using a VPN. So you could see down here, access, why use a VPN? So access, a lot of people will actually use a VPN service because their country of origin, like if you're inside of China or Russia or, different countries that have firewalls that block certain websites, or maybe you want to watch certain movies on Netflix or something like that are only available in the United States. That's actually a pretty common reason why people will use a VPN. You also have the privacy aspect. Now, it does encrypt your traffic and so forth, which does provide protections. However, there is a lot more tracking capabilities beyond just your location. So even if you use a VPN, services can still correlate based on your screen resolution, whether you have light or dark mode, what accounts you're signed into, all of these different things. So if you're still signed into your own personal accounts, and your device can be identified throughout all of the internet traffic, which you'd be surprised is not that hard. I'm actually going to provide this other there's a really cool resource here too. So I'm going to swap over to this real quick. But so EFF has cover your tracks. And what you could do is you could actually go through and test out your browser here. And so I'm going to go ahead and just run this right now, just so that way you guys can see. But test with real company data, real company tracking information. And so what this service does, and I'm going to drop this in chat, is it checks your browser to see how unique it actually is. And so this is one of the different things that I feel like a lot of people don't take into account. They utilize a VPN thinking that it's for privacy and security, and it's not. So it's more for a security side to encrypt your traffic than it is for privacy itself, because there's so many other ways that you can be tracked online. And then also another really cool service here too is privacytest.org. This was recently updated February 25th, and this gives you a really good breakdown of all kinds of different tests for default configurations for a variety of different browsers options. And so I personally use Brave. Later this month, we'll actually be going through and I'll showcase how I configure Brave, because I feel like the interface is really busy off the bat. But this is an awesome resource as well. Josh mentions sports. My home team goes games are mostly blacked out in my area. Hello, VPN. Hello, streaming game. Yeah, and there's even games that you can't play inside of certain areas. So it's a very common reason why using a VPN. But I'm going to go through and test this browser portion. I don't know how much data it shows, so I'm going to just run that real quick. And I'll move back over to that in a moment. But so there's multiple different reasons. And then also remote work as well. So a lot of businesses, especially if you work from home, will utilize VPNs to encrypt that traffic because they're more worried about security than they are privacy. When to use a VPN? The hint is whenever possible. So a lot of people will say public Wi-Fi. Utilize VPNs then. Traveling when you're connected to your hotel Wi-Fi. Streaming to get past those region restrictions like we talked about a moment ago. And then also online shopping, so just so that way that is encrypted throughout. In short, I use a VPN at all times. It doesn't really affect my internet traffic, at least. It definitely depends on who you utilize. But I definitely try to use it whenever possible. And like for an example, one of the reasons we're going to go through the actual walkthrough, like in AWS, is so that way you also have your own server that you can hopefully trust more than any other services out there. Although other services do have other benefits too. Types of VPNs. So personal VPNs, business VPNs, free and paid. I would never trust a free VPN service personally. With the amount of data access that it has, and also the concerns I have over privacy, I would not be trusting a free VPN service at all, because that does have a direct cost to them. It has bandwidth, it has servers, it has all of this different stuff. And that's just a no-go. So I do recommend a paid service. And I also, even though I'm going to go through and showcase how you could set up your own VPN server, I don't necessarily recommend that. So that is a option, and there are a lot of people who run that. You can even run a server on your own local network as well, that you can connect to remotely. There's a lot of stuff you could do with it. But like also when you deploy something out in the cloud, which I'll talk more about in a moment, then you also have risk built into that too, because what if that VM gets compromised? That's you're connecting all of your traffic to. So definitely some things to consider. And yeah, a lot of businesses do it as well, because it's also a virtual private network. So especially on the business end or in development and so forth, you can connect to a business VPN, and then you could actually be part of that network itself. Some of the common options here is typically what you see is the two different big ones here. So OpenVPN is very, very widespread. So it has great compatibility for major platforms. It's pretty quick and easy to use, although it is a much older option. So you still see OpenVPN in a lot of different places. I personally am a huge fan of WireGuard. It's a newer one. It's way faster. The speeds are way faster. And then also the code base for it is a fraction of what OpenVPNs is. And so like if you've ever spent any time on TryHackMe, then you've probably set up OpenVPN on your VM machine or otherwise to connect to the attack box. Or so that way you can complete those boxes and so forth on there. Do not hate on open source. I'm not hating on open source. I love open source. I just don't like OpenVPN. It's slower, it's older, and there's really not much more reason that I've seen why you should be using OpenVPN at this time. WireGuard seems to have more protections, and it also has quicker speeds, which is one of the downsides of a VPN, is it's going to affect your speeds. Good morning, Brexy. Welcome to the party, pal. PBO also says facts on work for VPN. VPN will not hide your location from your employer. Correct. Straight facts, homie. And that's one of the key things that I wanted to also mention there is the fact that, that's just one of the downsides. So setting up a VPN, this is what we're going to do here in a moment, is the two services that I personally recommend is Mullvad, which I've heard really awesome things about Mullvad. And then, of course, there's also Proton. So Proton VPN is what I'll use a large majority of the time. Definitely do your research and so forth. I highly, highly recommend going through and picking one or the other. So I'm pulling this up here. And so I wanted to show a little bit about the actual feature set though too. So Proton VPN, which is what I have up here. I'm going to go ahead. Let me actually just go straight to the website here. So Proton has multiple different services. It is definitely more cost effective if you go through and bundle with them. So you can get VPN, email, cloud storage, password manager, all of this different stuff separately. But let's go ahead and look at the VPN option here. So if we go over to the pricing only, then you could see some of this here. So 2 years at $449 a month. No logs, open source, Swiss-based. Now, this is one of the big reasons why I wanted to say that you should look at some of the services, because you can run your own server if you wanted to, which we'll showcase. But there's also other benefits to these services as well. So like there's over 11,000 different server options that you can connect to in over 110 different countries. That would be extremely costly for you to operate your own WireGuard or VPN in 110 different countries, not including time nonetheless. Also, they have like their own, they did make changes to the VPN software to increase the speeds. They also have features such as split tunneling, which that allows you to allow a certain application through the VPN itself. So if I want to run my VPN and I want a game or something like that, and I don't want to run that through the VPN, a lot of games won't allow it. There's even some services that will block VPN access as well. Then I can allow split tunneling to where it doesn't actually go through the VPN. And then you also have like high-speed streaming. This is one of the biggest benefits that I see with Proton, is that they actually have a bunch of different servers around the world that are set up specifically for watching Netflix, Disney, Prime Video, and so forth for streaming services. They're definitely high speed, and then also those IP addresses, they try not to get blocked there. And then you also get additional protections here, so ad block and malware protection. Now, we did talk about DNS through NextDNS last week. I do prefer that option than this option here, but it does still protect your DNS if you do not have a custom one enabled. And then even Proton has this additional option, is a double hop VPN. I'm not sure why they're calling it that here, but Proton calls that a secure core. And what that does is, it, instead of just having one server that you connect to, you actually hop through two servers through the VPN connection. So for an example, I'm in the US. So my first connection is going to be a US-based server. My second connection is going to be in Switzerland. And then that's going to be the server that actually pulls the information I'm requesting and sends it back through that channel. And so there's a bunch of different options here that, you would spend a lot of time, money, and resources to even get here, and some of the stuff would just be outside the realm for an individual nonetheless, or even a company for that matter. So that's another reason to go with a paid service. And then Mullvad is an amazing service as well. Some people would ask, why would you even want 2 subscriptions to a VPN service? So Mullvad has, I would say, a very good reputation. I've talked to a lot of people about Mullvad, and I would definitely say that they have made a name for themselves in regards to reputation. And I'm going to drop a link to this as well. And so I believe it's $5 a month. Yeah, so it comes out to £5. So about $5.53 a month. And then also you could pay by month. You could pay up to 10 years at a time. You can set this up to where you don't even provide any information. You could pay with cryptocurrency, and you just generate an account number that you do not want to lose. Yeah, it's awesome information. And then I'm going to go back over to this side here. And I'm also going to drop that one in chat as well. Josh mentions Proton usually runs a discount around the winter holidays. It's like 50% off sometimes, and further discount to pay for a full year in advance, as I did. Pretty affordable. Yeah, definitely take a look at the options and so forth. So Mullvad I'll use. So Proton is really good for high speeds, and they have some of these other features like multi-hop for additional security. But also, I don't like to have all my eggs in one basket, because whatever you do can be tracked and saved on the provider that you utilize, which is why these are the only 2 services I trust, just because of their reputation, especially Mullvad. So if I really do not want logs, then I'm connecting to Mullvad, because they have literally shut down their centers before, and they've been raided in the past, and the authorities were unable to recover any information. So that's where they've built a reputation with Mullvad. But both of these are pretty good options to look at. All right, and then I think I should be fine here. So then also real quick before we move forward, the Cover Your Tracks page that I shared. This tests for your browser protections and so forth, and it states right here, our tests indicate that you have strong protection against web tracking, and that's largely because I use Brave. I have different configurations for it. I have the DNS with Pi-hole and so forth. So there's a lot of different stuff that's built into this. Your browser has randomized fingerprinting, and so this still does not give you 100% protections. However, it does make it more difficult for organizations and data brokers and so forth to correlate the data while you're using a VPN or just browsing the internet even, and connecting your traffic to you. And so you could see here, your results have been randomized among 279,000 tests in the last 45 days. And there's a lot of information in here. So the user agent that it's showing, all kinds of different browser information, time zone set off, 300. And so, yeah, this is one of the reasons why what browser and settings you have actually do matter if you're worried about the privacy aspect. It just makes it a little bit more difficult. And that's kind of my goal, is data minimization, and then also just making it more difficult. It's like the pyramid of pain. They're going to track you regardless, but I'm going to make it as difficult as I can for them. And then I'm going to go back over to here. And so what I was trying to mention here is setting up a VPN. Now, I showed Mullvad and Proton, both of those different services. You would download those applications after you register on your device. There's apps on the App Store and so forth, and it's pretty quick and easy. You pay for your account, you install the apps, and you connect. And I also mentioned here, verify no log policies. So some of the organizations like Mullvad and Proton do have independent audits on a somewhat regular basis. I believe Mullvad just finished one of their independent assessments. Now, Also, let me check this real quick. All right, and then some of the different pros and cons. So we've talked about a lot of this already. So the pros is definitely the enhanced security side of it. You do get some privacy protections there as well, because it doesn't look like the traffic's coming from your device. When you're utilizing it for normal traffic, typically it tracks back to that VPN server. But you can still be tracked. And that's one of the big things that I feel like VPNs are overhyped, is it's for security. It's not really for privacy. Global content access for getting past those regions and so forth. And then also a public network safety, especially. So if I highly recommend paying for one of those services regardless. So you might as well use them whenever possible. But absolute worst case scenario, if you're going to be traveling or otherwise, I highly recommend, if you don't use a VPN on a daily basis, just spend the $5 for that month and run a VPN at a hotel or whatever else, just so that way you have those additional protections as well. Especially, I think especially at like hotels is very sketchy. Hotels, coffee shops, any public Wi-Fi. And then some of the different cons. So websites will block VPNs. Quality services cost money. So I would not trust anything that is completely free for that. Those are the only two services I would recommend. Proton does have a free tier as well that you can at least try out. And then you could upgrade if you needed to. And then also speed reduction. So there is definitely a cut on the speed. So if you don't have a very strong internet connection in the first place, that's definitely going to be a hindrance. Some of the different misconceptions. So 100% visibility. We've talked about that a few times now. It does hide the IP address, but there's a lot of other tracking methods. I was showcasing that with that Cover Your Tracks report. All VPNs are equal. The quality definitely varies. There's hundreds of different VPN options out there. And again, I would only trust those two services at all. And then also another thing is, like, people hear about VPNs, or like they work from home and they're like, oh, well, I have to, connect to this VPN and so forth. It is not overly technical. So especially if you go with Mullvad or Proton, it is very easy to just download the application, connect to it. You could set it up to where it auto connects. If you have issues, then you can always disconnect from it and so forth. It is a pretty easy. There's not really any technical side of it that you really have to know. Now, if you want to go through and deploy your own, then yes, you are definitely going to need to do some of the technical side, but it's still not too bad. So basically what this comes down to is, if you're not already, definitely check out some of the VPN options, give it a try, give it a spin. And then really what it comes down to is just a more secure future. So bam. And then here in a moment, I'm going to transition over here and pull up AWS Lightsail, and we'll go ahead and start deploying a WireGuard server. Oh, and I left that message up on the screen. Darn it. Welcome to the party, pal, Space Tacos. Oh gosh, Cam ran Cover Your Tracks, and it just stated you're effed. Going to update to one of the recommended. So I believe it's next week or the following week, I will be showcasing Brave Browser. That's one of the reasons I use Brave Browser. If you look at the privacytest.org, you can also see, I'll swap over to that real quick too. So on the privacytest.org, I love the service because it focuses on the privacy aspect, but it's also extremely, it's very fair. So the testing that they've conducted is not, I wouldn't say that it's biased or anything else. They literally just give you the facts for the different browsers, and they leave it to you to decide. And so it says whether the privacy test failed or not, or if no such feature exists. And so the primary ones that I would be looking at is Brave. So Brave, which runs off of Chromium. This is my option of choice because it has so many options. It does look horrible off the bat, which is why I'm going to do a video about my configurations, because I disable half of the different features that are enabled by default. I don't care about Web3. I don't care about the crypto wallet. I don't care about their rewards. I don't care about their VPN service or anything else. So I just disable all of that from the get-go, and it really cleans it up. And they have some of the best protections out there. Because you also have to think about the compromise, because also with the privacy aspect, then sometimes you're going to have to do like the CAPTCHAs more often to visit websites. You know, some websites may be broken. You might have to disable shields, as they call it, inside of Brave. And so there's a lot of different pros and cons with it as well. Now, the two that I use is Brave, and then I also use Mullvad. So if you look at the different options here, what's actually really surprising is LibreWolf is also okay, but I found it to be pretty difficult to actually use for normal web browsing, just because its defaults is pretty restrictive. So like it clears everything every time you close the browser, and that's kind of excessive. The defaults are pretty insane. But Mullvad has a really good middle ground, in my opinion. But you can take a look at these options, and you can also click on these, and it'll actually explain to you what the hell it actually means as well. So, and the more green checks, the better for the most part. But you can also even find a browser that is providing protections that you're looking for. So there's a lot of different things here. All right, and then... But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and so forth, especially during all that quiet time here at the end while I was trying to figure that part out. And definitely look forward to that video later today. GRC Mafia. If you guys have any questions or otherwise, definitely throw that in the Discord server outside of our streams. We also have that survey ongoing as well. And I'll also drop it in Discord later today when I publish that video. Because what I'll probably do is just go through, showcase how you can set it up on AWS, and then show the command line. Bam. So if you haven't already, there's the link to the survey as well. Thank you guys for your time. GRC Mafia, have a great rest of your day. Catch you guys in Discord. And I'll also see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, not only do we have our primary meeting, Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, but then also... you also can see the video on our YouTube channel where I'll be talking about GRC in the cloud with Cyber, with Christoph from Cyber. And so Cyber is the same company that sponsors our giveaways. I just dropped their link in the chat as well. All right, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a